Well, welcome back to the In Good Company podcast, where we believe that the best parts in business happen in good company. And we have one of our first out-of-town guests in the brand new podcast space here in downtown Rochester, New York. This is an episode that is for the dreamer that wants to take a dream and actually make it a reality. There is not a better person that I could think of to talk to about what we're going to be breaking down today than my good friend, Darren from Pinnacle Sales. Darren, how are you?
Good. Doing really good.
Dude, happy to have you, man. Thanks for wearing black as well with our dungeon-like backdrop. I think black on black, I mean, that is...
Never a bad look.
Yeah, that's the goal, man. I think it's, it's a dream. For those that are not watching on YouTube, you don't know what I'm talking about. But again, you look good, feel good.
Thanks.
We're going to be good today. What's your story, man? Give us a rundown. For those that don't know you, don't know kind of a little bit of your story. Where'd you grow up? What'd you kind of do for work as a kid? And what really led you into what you're doing today?
Yeah. So I'm out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I'm a manufacturer's rep in the plumbing industry, and never grew up thinking that was going to be my thing, right? But my dad started a business in 1991. From 1991 to 2013, it was just the thing my dad did. Around 2013, we got to talking, and I decided to get out of being a real estate lawyer, which was not my bag, and got into this, and we've had a pretty good go of it.
Real estate lawyer. What is that? Just, I mean, we don't really need to talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I'm sure there are real estate lawyers that do work that they love doing. For me, it was looking at documents.
Got it.
10 hours a day. Yeah.
That sounds awesome.
It was not suited to my natural inclinations.
Got it. Yeah. No, that sounds terrible. And hey, if that's you, wonderful.
Yeah.
I mean, hey.
Like I said, it's good for some people.
Yeah, everybody's got their sweet spot.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's great. We do a segment on our podcast called Fails of the Week. I think with a lot of entrepreneurs and businesses, you can see the bright and shiny websites and the company vehicles and all the stuff, and you could say, oh man, must be nice to run a great company like that. The reality is, it's freaking hard being an entrepreneur, being a business owner. Yeah. Are there any fails or kind of funny stories over the years where you're like, man, maybe it wasn't funny at the time, but maybe just a fun story to share?
So I feel like one of the things I'm trying to constantly do in my business is help people to do their best work, become the best version of themselves.
Yep.
And for a lot of us, we just, and this is the case for all of us to some degree, we can't get out of our own way. And you watch people at one level self-sabotage and not succeed. Our business is one that I like to say it's simple, but it's hard.
Yep.
It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of knowledge, but at the end of the day, we're selling plumbing and heating products, and sometimes that's pretty complex, but it should never be that complicated.
Yeah.
And we are, the things that have been the most painful, I guess, for me over the years, the fails, as you call them, are just watching people not live up to what they thought they wanted to do. You know? And it sucks when those relationships don't work out, but it's not for everybody.
Yeah. How have you been able to grow and scale the business where, of course, naturally there are transitions in leadership or transition in roles? I got to believe for a guy that's very relationship driven like you are, I mean, those moments are hard when maybe someone that you've been working with for a long time ends up going a different way or whatever that looks like. Sure. But how have you been able to manage kind of the relational needs of the business versus the, hey, we want to scale this thing, we're going to grow this thing, and either you're coming or you're not kind of philosophy? How have you been able to really manage that as you're scaling your business?
I hate the word manage. I always think of, remember the movie Boss Baby, right? Oh, yeah. Where it's like, there's the children that go and become, painters or whatever, and then there's management, right? And they're born with a suit. And, so it's a little bit of a dirty word for me.
I never imagined we'd be talking about Boss Baby on the pod, but this is awesome.
We should always talk.
I love it.
Yeah.
All right.
But, it's a little bit of a dirty word in that, for our business, we're a sales and marketing agency. The best way to describe it for somebody who's not in it would be we are outsourced sales and marketing for plumbing and heating manufacturers.
Yep.
Right? So a plumbing manufacturer could say, hey, I'm going to hire a sales guy, pay them a W-2, he's going to have a territory, or I can hire an independent agency that already has a bunch of people in the marketplace,
Yep.
decades of relationships, so forth, right? And so for us, management is a little bit anathema in that salespeople that need to be managed are probably not worth having. Because if you don't have one of our core values is the fire in the belly. If you don't get up every day and want to win for yourself, you're not going to fit at our company. And so, we like to say that when we've said this to manufacturers too, we are not an agency that you need to put a fire under our ass because the fire's in our belly. It comes from within. And that goes with the salespeople that we hire too. And so I don't love the word management for that reason. But that said, ultimately what helps us scale is people finding their why within our organization, and wanting to get up every day and do good work.
That's awesome. And so coming from outside of the home service space, so to speak, and coming in from real estate or from a market outside, obviously your dad was working on stuff, so you kind of through the grapevine maybe heard what he was working on. Was it a hard transition for you to kind of learn the ropes, so to speak, to be able to speak the language, kind of do the dance there, or because you grew up with it, was it kind of just naturally in there with you?
For me, from age 0 to 32, I never thought about it. So I might have learned some things by osmosis, but I don't think you learn how to size a water heater or specify a booster pump or whatever the weird things that we do without actually putting in the time to understand how everything operates. So it's a ton of hard work, right? Yeah. And from really day one, though, you gotta, whatever industry you're in, you've got to learn that industry. You've got to know who the players are. You've got to know what the different paths to success are. Yeah. But also, you got to be an insider and an outsider at the same time. You got to be inside enough to understand where the relationships are, what matters to that specific industry. But you also have to have that outsider perspective of, why do we do it this way? Yep. Why are in my business, why are some rep agencies just doing the same thing they've done for the last 30 years and not progressing, while the manufacturers, the wholesalers, all of the different people in the value chain, they have to progress. If you're not growing, you're dying. Yeah. And so as just a natural course of business, and that's just a natural course of life. Yeah. Too.
Yeah, I don't know if your business has always been this way, but I think one of the things I respect the hell out of with you and the way you run Pinnacle Sales is it really does feel like all of your reps, like really everybody has a seat at the table. Like you really do value the input and the voices of the team that you guys are building with. Where does that come from? Has it always been that way with Pops back in the day, or is it something that really has kind of evolved over the years?
I think that it's definitely evolved. I'll say for me, and I think this is true for a lot of people that are trying to build a business. I was able to come in and have some foundation of a business that I was able to enter. But what I walked into and what we are today are two fundamentally different things. And the painful growth between those two was, the pain part of it is, as always, self-imposed. Sure. I worked really hard, too hard in some ways. And, I think this is the case for any small business. The largest part of your P&L are salaries and what you pay people. And if you're turning over employees, that's not to your best interest, right? That actually really hurts the bottom line. And so, why do people stay? And you can see the memes or whatever on LinkedIn time and time again, all the data, from HR surveys. People stay people stay when they feel heard and respected. Yeah. They want to make a good living. They want to provide for their family. But it's actually good business to incorporate all of the stakeholders in your business who are the employees, and really take their perspective seriously, almost first. We
Yeah.
like to say the customer's first. They're not actually, because if you don't have a happy, healthy, number of employees to actually run the business, the customer ultimately is not going to be taken care of.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
that's a large part of why, it's good business to do that, but also just at a personal level, the happier I am, the happier the people around me tend to be, and vice versa, right?
Yep.
Not that I'm the center of everything, but we're all the center of everything
Sure.
for each of us, because we all start from our own perspective. And it's like what you find out in the world is usually a reflection of what's going on inside you.
For sure.
Not usually, always.
Yeah.
And so it's in your best interest, not only at the level of business, but just at the level of humanity, to really listen to the other who's across the table.
Yep.
That's actually, part of you.
Yeah, man.
Right? Like, because we're all one body, we're all a team, right? We talk about that in business, we talk about that in life, and you got to work together. And you don't know everything, whoever you are.
For sure. Yeah, and I think you can step into a role even as an employee and feel like, well, I know more than my boss and he doesn't listen to me and this and that. And so that can be a negative, but then vice versa. You can be the boss that's, they don't know anything. I'm in charge. Here's what I'm doing. And I just think in general, the open forum nature of the way you do business, I think, is not just beneficial for your team, but we had a chance to go down to Orlando at a conference a few months ago where even your team walking into some of these booths with years of relationship that you guys have developed, they were greeting you with hugs and, hey, it's good to see you, and this and that. It wasn't, like the Pinnacle Sales guys are here, we're busy, don't let them get close to us, they're going to try to sell us something or this or that. There's actual relationship that has been developed. And maybe talk about that. What has it been like to not just sell for the manufacturers, but to build the relationships with the other people that you're actually delivering the product to?
Business is just a thing that humans do to add value to society. And you can't easily lose the human element. And we see that all the time, right? There are a lot of terrible places to work.
Yep.
And there are a lot of, the tragedy of that is every single human being has a unique genius to them. I don't care who they are. That word genius actually comes from, the same word where we get genie, right? We're like the guardian angel kind of idea, right? Everybody has something inside them that they are here on earth to contribute, right? And you can look at that metaphysically or spiritually, or you can just look at it at the level of the P&L, right? And if you're not showing up as an authentic human being, eventually that will manifest itself in your business acumen or success. That's just how it goes. And so, the relationships you saw, they're real, they're authentic. I'm not invited to everybody's wedding or, the baptism of all their children, right? But at the same time, I care about them. I care about them at the level of, hey, you're here to do a job. If you were a billionaire and I was a billionaire and we didn't have to be here, right? Maybe there's that like counterfactual, but we are here and we get to be here. That's a mentality. That's a mindset. So we get to be here together. We get to have this relationship. How can we help each other succeed? Yeah. Because business, one of the things about business that I love, and it took me a while to really understand this, is when done properly, it is not a zero-sum game. The world is actually abundant. We create value every day. I mean, if you think about it just at the level of, 1,000 years ago, all of the energy that's on Earth was basically here, right? And over time, through business, we create that to become more value. Yep. What does that mean? Well, it's how are we using this time on Earth, this 40-hour work week, whatever, to help us enact the things we want to see in the world. Yeah. Does that make sense? Absolutely. I don't want to get too big picture on it.
No, this is the Darren I was hoping would be unlocked during the podcast. We've had some, I'm serious, man. I think you're a guy that is, again, for those that are listening that are maybe more intellectual thinkers. You're processing things at a deeper level than just that surface business transaction. I value that a ton with you, and I think we've had some great conversations over fire pits and whatever else just over the past year or so. For someone who is maybe they're working at a job right now where they're not feeling that kind of value, or they're not feeling that kind of abundance that you're discussing. Sure. I mean, it's easy to listen to, and someone like yourself that's managed to reach that place. For someone that is just kind of stuck in their 9 to 5, and they're just not really feeling like they're not really making a great contribution to the world. They don't feel super energized by the work that they do. What kind of advice might you have for someone that's kind of in that window right now?
I think the first thing is, do as well as you can where you are, right? Look for opportunities where you are, but at the same time, you have to listen to what's within you. If you know that you wake up every day and you hate to go to work, you should listen to that. I'm not saying quit your job tomorrow, but start figuring out what you want to be doing in 6 months, right? And make a plan. And, last I checked, there's 24 hours in the day for everybody. And if you're spending 8 of them doing something you hate, okay, own the fact that you brought yourself to that point, because nobody else created your life for you. Yep. You created that life. All right, why did I do that? Why did I devalue myself and put myself in this situation? All right, it's a great question. Journal it, whatever. Do whatever you need to do to figure out the answer to that.
Yeah. Start
figuring that out. And then on the flip side of that is going to be, what do I actually want to do? I know what I don't want, right? It's easy for us to come up with what we don't want. What do I want? That's the harder question. And then from there, you figure that question out.
Yeah.
In whatever way you figure that out. And you said you wanted to talk about dreams. Maybe listen to your dreams. Maybe start writing down what your literal dreams are. Because does anybody ever think about how weird it is that we dream every night and we never fucking, pardon my language, we never talk about it. We never talk about it. We all spend a third of our life asleep, and we have these wild things that come to us. And at most, we
that was crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. What is that? What is that intelligence that it created that dream? Yeah. Who is the actual dreamer?
Yeah.
And I think that's one way, right? That, again, there's other things that are maybe a little less seemingly esoteric that you can do, like write a business plan.
Sure.
Life,
yeah.
Right, or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's the first step. Is if you're hating your life, recognize, why did you create a life that you hate?
Yeah.
What did you do that to yourself for? And then from there, once you've asked that, told yourself some hard truths, then look for the thing that lights you up, that you were put here to do, and then start doing it.
Yeah. I had a business mentor once basically say, find that thing that actually pisses you off. Mm-hmm. Like, what is the thing that keeps you up at night even? Or it's just something that you can't stand, like the opposite side of. And then go fix it.
Sure.
Go build a life around, and maybe you can't, but you can build a life around that thing I'm going to chip away at for the rest of my life. And that's an example. Like, you don't have to, I think what you shared is spot on as well.
No, it's a great example. And, the one thing that you said that I guess I hate the word can't. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't hate it. It's a telling word.
Sure.
Confucius said, right? To quote Confucius, the person who says they can and the person who says they cannot, both are correct.
Yep.
And I think that's a fundamental truth that we ignore at our peril. Because every problem has a solution.
Yeah.
It does. Some are very intractable, large-scale problems. It's going to take a lot of minds and a lot of willpower and a lot of resources to address them.
Yeah.
But in most of our lives on the day-to-day basis, our problems are actually quite mundane compared to that, and you can make a dent.
Yeah.
You can chip away at it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And we owe it to ourselves, and we owe it to our, the rest of society.
Yeah.
And at the level of business, that's literally why we do business,
is
to make society something.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't feel that way, right? Most people, I forget the statistics, don't quote me on it, but, the vast majority of Americans, at least, are either passively engaged or actively disengaged at work. Right? Meaning they got to go punch in, they got to put their time in, but it's not exactly what's lighting them up. Their mind is elsewhere.
It's an exchange.
It's an exchange. It's an exchange. And so I don't think we're going to solve that problem on today's podcast, but I think
you just said we're not allowed to say we can't. Well, you didn't.
That's true.
But.
That's true. It's a start, right? But that is ultimately the mentality that you don't have to look at it that way, but you get to look at it that way.
Dude, I think the topics we're hitting today, I mean, I know for a fact what it felt like to be working in a job that was taking from me.
Sure.
And I don't mean sacrifice or seasons of like doubling down on work so that we can kind of get through to the other side. But I'm talking about legitimate windows of like taking my lunch break, sitting in my car, listening to Buffalo Bills radio, crushing my Wegmans sub, looking out the window at people walking in and out of Wegmans, just going like, what am I doing? Like just deep, like almost spiritual moments of like, am I making my greatest contribution to the planet, today,
right.
in this role?
Right.
And I do want to say, and this is what I'd love to dive into with you next, like, I don't think that everybody that works a job, that has to also be their purpose or passion either.
No.
I know people that make a great amount of money at a job and then they leverage that resource, the additional time they get, and they're able to actually put that into their passion. So just to be clear, I know we are talking about work and passion, but how have you been able to take, because you're a really brilliant dude, man. I think we've had a lot of conversations, and you have, we had lunch down in Pittsburgh at this incredible spot, and we were talking for 2 or 3 hours just about our upbringing, our life, like the things that we've been involved with. And I just remember walking away from that feeling like, I would never have thought that the guy that owns Pinnacle Sales would have kind of the level of depth. And I mean this respectfully, but like when I think about the home service stigma or like, whatever that space is, it's like you are a unique guy in that space.
Yeah.
So how have you been able to find the passion, the purpose at work, but still maintain the level of this is who Darren is, these are my interests, these are the things that I can stay sharp in, continue to seek and grow in?
We're all unique. And for me, I learned the ability to. So, I don't think to come back to Boss Baby, which is what we need to do.
Oh no!
There are very few children that if you ask them, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" they're going to say water heater salesman. Or salesman.
Maybe zero.
Yeah. And it's not to knock the water heater business. The water heater business is, core to our business. And literally my family's history, like my dad was a working class kid that got into sales. Get this. In the 1970s, people literally would sell three-ring binders, like plastic binders, right? Which, people don't even need those anymore because everything's digital.
Hole punch.
But back in the 1970s, three-ring binder manufacturers, like there was one in Pittsburgh, I forget the name of it, they actually had salespeople that would go and sell three-ring binders. Like to like steel mills, right? Or like large industrial, corporate outfits. And so that was my dad's first sales job out of college. And yeah, which is pretty, probably in 50 years, people are going to laugh and be like, there used to be a thing called a water heater salesman too, right?
And you can push this button and the rings will open.
Yeah. Do you want 6-inch? Do you want 4-inch? And we can put your company name on it.
Oh, yeah.
It was legit.
Got
right?
a little pocket on the front.
Yeah, but so why am I talking about that? Because, he eventually learned what he learned he could sell things. He learned about the heating business. He got into the heating business. Eventually, he found his way in the water heater business, right? So he did really well at it. I learned a lot from him. He still knows more than you would ever think there is to know about water heaters, right?
Sure.
A thing that is literally a cylinder in your basement that you never think about until you have a cold shower.
Yeah.
Right? And through that, that's one story of one family's fortunes being made, so to speak, by learning how to sell that particular commodity, product, service, whatever you want to call it, right? And so multiply that across essentially infinite number of different things that we do. And so that's where my background came from, right? But in the course of doing that, you understand that selling is something we all do every day. And the word sales, salesperson, selling, whatever the connotation, whatever word you give to people, again, they've done this countless times.
Yep.
The vast majority of people have a negative connotation with that, right? Slimy, duplicitous, liar, used cars, right? Whatever the thing is they come up with. And what is selling? Ultimately, it is our ability to convince others to part with energy, money, value. Yeah. Right? Hopefully, at least in the salesperson's best interest, but hopefully also in the buyer's best interest, right? And, the negative connotation is because there are companies, back to your point, you said it almost felt spiritual, like I was being extracted in your job when you're eating your Wegman sub and sitting in the van, right? Yeah. There are a lot of businesses that rely on the fact that there will never be a shortage of suckers, right? There will never be a shortage of people who you can pull a fast one on. I mean, if you trick 1 million people, right, to spend $10 on something that they're not happy about, you made $10 million, right? And on the internet, that's probably not that hard to do. I mean, it's kind of hard to do, or everybody would do it, right? Right. But ultimately, for me, where I realized that when I came to terms with the fact that I'm in sales, right? So positively, what does that mean? Well, I think I don't remember if the title of the book is To Sell is Human. Okay, yeah. But at one level, a kid, a family, right? The kids want pizza for dinner, right? Those kids are trying to sell mom and dad on getting pizza for dinner, right? The wife wants to go on vacation here and the husband wants to go on vacation here. Somebody's selling somebody on their vision, right? Yeah. And that ultimately is what we're all doing all the time, because, the other side of that is we are trying to create a future that we don't yet have. Yep. And so that's just kind of been a core skill, I guess, at one level. And you get good enough at that, and you realize I can actually create more of the life that I want. Yeah. Right? And eventually you decide, do I want to make more money? Do I want more freedom? Do I want to have my own business? Whatever that thing is. But ultimately, I'm kind of losing my train of thought a little bit, but for me, how it has panned out is I realized that the more I was comfortable with myself and happy in myself, it turned out that the more people wanted to relate to me through buying or whatever the thing was. Yeah.
There's a concept really of you will make as much money as the level of the problem that you solve. Yeah. If you can cure cancer, you're going to make a ton of money because the problem is so great that when you provide that solution, I will pay whatever the cost to save my child, my grandma, my whoever that has cancer, because I want them to live, right? Yeah. And I think that there's probably some entrepreneurs listening to this that want to start a business. They're like, damn it, I have to sell now. Like I didn't want to, right?
Well, and there's a growing up process in that for a lot of people.
Yep.
To get comfortable with money.
Sure.
Because I actually think, back to the point you were making about there's a spiritual, we all have money wounds in our society. Meaning, I think most of us can intuit that there really is enough to go around, that we all can be and be provided for. And I'm not talking about, some nanny state coming down, but like literally the world is pretty abundant. And why don't people have enough? And we have money wounds at the level of, was money used to make us do things that we didn't ultimately want to do? Did we have to exchange our time for things otherwise, forced, we're going to have to starve on the streets, right? Yeah. And so you have to grow up a little bit and realize money matters at the level of, if you have an idea, somebody's going to need to sell it. Right?
Yeah.
Nothing happens without somebody selling it first at one level. So I'll leave it there. I'm trying to kind of come back to what you were saying. What did you say right before that?
No, I just said that you make as much money as a problem that you're able to solve.
Oh yeah. So I agree with that. At the same time, I heard this said once, right? So Winston Churchill said something to the effect of, democracy is the worst form of government except for all of the others, right? Money is the worst form of value except for all the others. You know what I mean? And so we value things in dollars and cents.
Yeah.
But the most valuable things in life are not actually valuable in dollars and cents, right? We literally call them invaluable.
Yeah.
And ultimately, in my life, viewing business, it's like, are you going to view business as a means or an end?
Yep.
Right? If you view it as an end, it's going to probably extract more value than it gives.
Yeah, it goes back to that transaction thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's a lot of where the negative connotation of the word sales comes from, is that there are transactions. We all deal with, we all make transactions every single day, but none of us wants to feel as though our life is transactional.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to be on an assembly line. I don't want to be pushed through the sales cycle. I don't want the text message to hit me right after, hey, it looks like you left something in your cart. Did you forget to check out? It's like all of us, when that happens on a human level, we're like, get me off the assembly line.
Like literally yesterday, I had to buy some insurance.
Right? Yeah, love it.
And by the time that I could actually check out and I was literally already getting an email like, hey, did you forget us? I'm like, I'm not even finished on your website.
Didn't even close the tab, but thank you. Yeah. It is. It's a fascinating conversation. I feel like you and I could talk for days, and we're going to dinner after this, so we will. But the hope that I hope that people that are listening to this take is, you are able to accomplish a true dream role, even if from the outside it may not have be what you wanted to sign up for, what you wanted to do, but you can really take onus of your own life, your own spirituality, your own soul, your own spirit, and you can wake up every day and step into a role that you have and really make a difference, make an impact. And I think your story has been an example, even just a glimpse for the people listening, of someone who's been able to do that. Yeah. We've got a portion of our podcast that we do every single episode called the Rapid Fire Hot Seat Questions. These are quick 1 to 2 word responses. You should be getting nervous. This is the moment.
I'm feeling the anxiety rise.
Okay, good. We'll start easy. What is a dream travel destination for you that you have not been to yet? I know you've been to a lot of cool spots.
Thailand.
All right. Are you a White Lotus fan?
I am.
Me too, bro.
Yeah.
It's incredible. Is that why you said Thailand?
I've wanted to go for a while,
All right.
but of course White Lotus.
It's an incredible show.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay. What's the best meal that you've had in the last year? Absolute best meal.
A la Familia in Pittsburgh.
Wow.
Yeah.
Incredible. Are you an early bird or a night owl?
Early bird.
All right. Do your kids keep you up more early mornings or late nights?
They keep me up later than I want to. So.
Excellent. I love it. What's the first word that comes to mind when I say contractor?
Successful.
Ooh. What is your most used app that's not work related?
Probably Instagram.
Nice. I was going to say X, but that's cool. Instagram.
It should be X for me.
I don't know.
It's not.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. What is one word to describe your entrepreneurship journey?
Harrowing.
Wow. What a legend. Well, you heard it here first. That is incredible. Well, Darren, thank you for the time, man.
Yeah.
Really appreciate you being here. And thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of In Good Company, where we really do believe that the best parts in business happen in good company. Thanks so much.